Welcome back. Yes, and then we've got Dr. Umar Bindir here with us. He is a former CEO of National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTAP, former coordinator, National Social Investment Program, NSIP, former SSG to the Adamawa State Government. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today, sir.
Former.
I'm currently in the studio with us.
Yes, indeed. But I mean, at times like this, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you feel, that like lots of Nigerians that, oh dear, they hope that the prices of goods haven't gone up again. You don't know what to expect, all of those things. And so that's why we look at some of these people who are supposed to be in those positions to make sure that doesn't happen. What are they doing? Do they understand the task that they're saddled with? What about the CNC himself? Is he keeping them on their toes to ensure that they do what they were there to do? It's a year after they've been appointed. So from what you've seen, what do you make of it?
Well, thank you very much. Luckily for me, you didn't introduce me as former headmaster to government. So I've actually gauged all this. But yeah, life in this country is difficult and also not difficult. In the same, what I mean by that is, yes, when people wake up in the morning, as you said, you're just waiting for some difficulty to hit you. And for me, I now cook. I am now the cook of the house, yes. When I wake up in the morning, I prepare breakfast for my wife before she goes to work. I love that. At least I'm happy. You know what I mean? And so I don't care about whether prices are going up or not. I've got a job. Very nice. Anyway,
getting paid for this job that you're doing.
Happiness is the
happiness.
Yes. But you see, our country, government connected to the social system, the people, in my opinion, has three major big issues. And all the work we do, in my opinion, if you don't gauge it to those points to see whether they're coming down or not, then everything we're doing is just in the air. You see, one, our country is bedeviled by corruption. It's just everywhere. Even your gate man, who you are paying, you've employed him, you've given him the little house near your gate. When you are leaving, he will say, Chamberlain, ground never level, he's expecting something from you, So he wants to milk you, despite the fact that you are the one paid. That is how close it can go to you. Two, poverty is very, very high. We're not talking about you have two cars and I have one. We're talking about poverty of people not having food to eat. Even if they have, it's not balanced. We're talking about people, who live in houses that are not particularly habitable. We're talking about people who have children that cannot go to school, and so on and so forth. This kind of poverty in this country is very, very high. Three, and most importantly, is that we have a challenge with our youth. Youth unemployment is very high. Whether you are educated or non-educated, does not matter. So when you mix these three, whether you are Minister of Foreign Affairs, whether you're Minister of Agriculture, whether you're Minister of Gas or whatever, if what you do does not affect these things that affect people, then you have to rejig if you're a leader in Nigeria. And that goes to the highest level. So it's sad to the extent that this great country that literally has everything that God has designed to make a human being comfortable is in this country. Our weather ranges from desert, dry, down to rainforest. We have solid minerals everywhere. We have fresh water flooding people. You go to Kebbi today, the flood is carrying people's villages and cows and everything. Give them 2 months, then they don't have water to drink. From plentiful to totally dry. It's just that we just wait. In fact, every year we just wait for flood to come and take some few people and animals. We complain a bit and then we say there's no water to drink. We don't do anything about it. You know what I mean? So this is the rhythm of government. Normally has to be very, very technical, in my opinion. You cannot just take a position and expect things to happen. It doesn't rain from the sky. It cannot sprout from the soil. You have to think. You have to say, hey, I am Minister of Education. I'm Minister of Agriculture. How do I get these women that are actually selling bitter leaf and so on and so forth, selling more bitter leaf? I don't have to concentrate on your rice and maize and all that. How do I get these Fulani women that are milking goats and so to sell more milk? This is very difficult. It's not easy, but that has to be done. So literally the summary is, yes, we have big challenges, but we also have solutions just near our feet. The gap is, are we ready to look at the solutions and in a very, very committed, nationalistic and patriotic way?
Why will we not be ready to look at solutions?
Well, you see, it's tough. There are times when you just think because this guy is a leader, he knows it all. No, he doesn't. You know,
when you say we, who are you talking about?
the Nigerians. We generally in Nigeria.
What other people you're referring
to? I think both. I think when if you are a leader and you are in court and desiring for change, you literally become a revolutionary. You are shouting at civil servants, you are meeting everywhere, you are visiting communities and so on and so forth. And people will think that you are crazy. But that is the only way you can dig into these things. And unfortunately, we don't do it as vigorously as we should.
I mean, you just mentioned right now that the solutions are at our fingertips. It's just right there. You know, I remember you from the NSIP and all the work that you had to do in the States. But there's a conversation that's going on right now when it comes to the government trying to get us out of the situation that we're in. The line between palliatives and actual development. Palliatives that actually mean something, that actually cushion the impact of these issues, and then the development that is necessary for long-term growth of the Nigerian people. Where would you rate the Tinubu administration in that regard? Are they doing what can lift people out of poverty?
Well, I think palliatives will never, ever develop you. That's just the principle. Palliative is, if you just pop out of a corner and you see a woman sitting down there, the natural thing is you pick the woman up and you try to sit and you talk to the woman. Just picking and talking to the woman will not change her life drastically. You have to do something extra. So palliative is in the category of what I call immediate actions to demonstrate that you mean business. But instantly, you have to follow it up. Look, the most vibrant sector of our economy in this country, by my estimation, is the informal sector. I don't know about you, but my mother knows how to extract oil out of groundnuts. She could be a very, very rich woman, but she only gets one mudu of groundnuts once a month, if at all. She knows how to smoke fish. She knows how to make yogurt. She can fry nice puff and bean cakes. Now, so is literally 60 to 70% of mothers in this country. This sector should be the sector to inject. The Minister of ICT must know them and what the data should be readily available. The Minister of Commerce and Industry must be designing credit that can reach these people to power them so that they can be able to repair and be prosperous. The Minister of Education will look at these women to see that if their children are there, how do their children get access to education? So that, you know, everybody, in my opinion, should look at that sector to start with. And when you kickstart it, the vibrance of that sector will ensure that food in your community will be lower, will be readily available and cheap. Two, because nobody in industry generally, I am buying oil from someone, I'm buying flour from someone, I'm buying, dawa from somewhere to make that small soup that I can sell. That creates social cohesion. It's part of the peace generation because I'm buying kerosene from you. There's no way I can come and destroy your shed because I will not get kerosene. This is just how communities work. But this sector is a complex sector.
Is it being ignored?
I don't think if we were working very hard to spark this sector, we will not be where we are now. That is just it. I'm not saying that we are not doing it, but maybe we are not doing it correctly. We're not doing it on time. I remember Anchor Borers, when we were there, we were doing Anchor Borers. I sat somewhere radically and I said to the Bank of Agriculture, look, the farmers have a calendar. I will plant here and they will grow. I'll apply fertilizer because I'm depending on rain. You must have calendar of releasing funds to align with this. So when you want to plow already, you have the money. When you want to plant, but how come your calendar to release funds is actually after all the farmer has harvested? It will never work. Government will feel like, oh, we've got a fantastic credit platform to cater for poor people, but it is not aligned, and therefore it misses. So when you give the farmer fertilizer when he doesn't need it, the only thing is for him to sell it. And then you come complaining, oh, these poor people, you give them fertilizer, they're selling it, useless people. So this is the technicalities about all these things.
Is it that the people who engineer such misalignments are not aware? For instance, I would assume that anyone who is going to help the federal government to disburse fertilizers to farmers would be someone who understands agriculture and would know exactly what to do, when and how.
Well, that's the theory. In practice, that is not so.
Are they then for political?
I think there are politics everywhere. In politics can make you even elect somebody who does not deserve to be elected. Politics can actually push you to go through the courts to get a leader that you don't deserve. Appointment politically can make you get somebody who doesn't know the sector very well. You can see somebody who has been put onto a very highly technical role, and he doesn't.
But Doctor, the Ministry of Agri, if you look at the Minister and the Minister of State, for instance, the Minister of State for Agri, he's been in that sector before he became a senator, and now went back to that place. And now they tell us that they're distributing fertilizers, and then they're working on dry season farming. So we can have 24, what was that word? I mean, all
year-round farming season.
That kind of speaks to them adjusting to what you have just suggested, as opposed to before when they just, they were not, if they were, we didn't know, if they were planning for all year-round farming. So are they not addressing the issues that you raised here?
Well, you see, the thing is, it's not as easy as that. I'll give just an example with the dry season. Dry season farming literally means irrigation. Irrigation means you have a body of water. You must have the technique of moving the water to the farm, spreading it when the crops require, in addition to all the weeding and fertilizer and everything. And then later you bring equipment and so on and so forth. So this is very complex, but I understand, even if you don't know anything, even if you are not an agriculturalist, if you're a pure street politician and you are put on that, the one thing that will be expected of you is that you need to calm down and become an administrator now. You know how to speak to your permanent secretary. You know how to put your directors together. You know how to think and say, look, every day we're going to meet here at 8 o'clock, and we will not leave here until we find out on exactly how does Bank of Agriculture deliver these loans to the farmers in Akwa Ibom, in Kaduna, in Bayelsa, in Sokoto, and so on and so forth. I am not going to go anywhere. But if you sit and you believe that someone somewhere knows it all and they will just report to you, you will get the bad report, beautiful reports with pictures and everything, but certainly when the farms are not working, you know that it's not working. There's no magic about it. Once food is scarce, the prices of food is going high. It's a demand and supply thing. You should accept that certain things that you have done are wrong. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the thing is that for us, sometimes you see problems and you still say that you're doing very well. It doesn't add up. These are simple
in many ways, that's why many Nigerians don't believe it when you say you're doing this, you're doing that. They can't see it, But I want to be able to move to another set of ministers. The defense ministers, the duo of Matawale and the former Jigawa state governor. Earlier, Chamberlain was saying there's knocks and kudos. Okay, so it's up and down. It's up and down. It's like you take a step forward. Oh, we've killed so and so number of terrorists in so and so place. Then a kidnapping happens the next day, and it will be children. Then we now don't know how to measure how they're performing. What do you make of those ministers and how they're handling the security situation in the country?
I think the mother of all engagement of performance actually comes to what are you analyzing? There's no way you can analyze anything without data. I'm sorry. Today, the Minister of Defense or Minister of State of Defense alone cannot handle the insecurity by themselves. In fact, as far as the Ministry of Economy, Communication and Digital Economy, as far as you may think he is from insecurity, he probably is the key person. You must know all the data about the prisons. Every prisoner that has entered prison must have their own biodata on some kind of database, so that if you catch him again, you know exactly, hey, you were in Kuje before, and how come that you are out killing people again, even if they are dead? When they die, you carry their fingers, you do like you say, I have killed this man, he was in Kuja 3 times. So data on everything is the way to go. That is why the ICT, information, communication, and now even with entertainment technology is the key. If we're not sharp on it, all these things will continue happening, and you will think it's ministers that are not doing it.
You know, you just raised an issue that is very pertinent. You talked about data while talking about insecurity. That speaks, and you mentioned the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, and you talked about prisons, which is under the Ministry of Internal Affairs. So it speaks to collaboration.
Yes.
Do you see that happening?
Well, you know, so that ministers don't say, oh, see, Dr. Bindir is supposed to be my friend. And he said, no. You see, it's a system. I told you initially that you have poverty, insecurity, and corruption as key things. What if we were to have zero poverty in this country? We will not be talking like this. It doesn't matter what the ministers are saying. Our poverty is gone, and we're all fairly prosperous and we're working. But it's a problem. If we were to have no insecurity problem, I would have been traveling to Yola by car. I'll go and buy potatoes in Jos. I'll pass, I'll buy rice in Gombe. And when I get to Yola, I'll give it to my family easily. But I can't easily do that because insecurity is a problem. So there's a problem. If corruption was not very endemic, I know if you give me a contract, I don't have to listen to you or whatever. I'll just go and deliver and go. So the fact that you have these problems, it's us that has to reflect on ourselves. If I were a minister of, I don't know, of labor, I know that I have to talk to all the other ministers to make sure that my mandate is actually implemented well. And I'll give you a short scenario if you have time. When I was DG NOTAP, NOTAP is an intellectual property or technology transfer office of Nigeria. It has a lot of implication on international intellectual property. But the other 2 or 3 intellectual property institutions are actually in the Ministry of Trade and Investment and Ministry of Justice. Trademark office is in the Ministry of Investment. Patent and industry is in the Ministry of Investment. But copyright is in the Ministry of Justice. There's no way I can enjoy my job without this. So I told my guy, I said, where are these? Who is there at that place? He said, he's a very difficult man. I said, no matter how he's difficult, the worst he can do is to say, get out of my office. And that is not going to reduce it. So I went, Adeopo was there, spilled a form. The secretary was, do you know who I was? Say, yes. I said, I want to see DG. No, he's in a meeting. I said, please tell him that my mother is ill and she will die if I don't see him. So I filled a form there quickly. Then he saw Dr. Bindir and said, hey, my brother, how are you? I said, no, leave this, my brother, my brother. You are the DG of Copyright Commission. I'm DG of NOTAP. If we don't work together, the IP of Nigeria will not be very strong. So from today, every event you do, please invite me. Every event I do, I'll invite you. If you think there's something I can do, call me. This is my number. So I carried him. There was a woman then as the director of the trademark, patent, and whatever in Ministry of Investment. They probably were not in talking terms because of the plan. You know, we always like our territory. So we went together. The guy said, no, leave the woman now. The mama is very hot. I said, what? Wait. If she kicks us out, we'll go and talk on TV that she kicks us out. So we went there. We filled the form. She saw our name. She popped out herself. And we sat down, 3 of us. And I said, look, we're the babas of intellectual property in this country. We have to help the universities to create intellectual property. You know how licensing works. We have to work the licenses so that Nigerian young people can get jobs using Nigerian intellect and so on. That was how we created an environment and we were talking to each other. But before, this is my mandate, this is my money, this is my staff, don't touch it.
So
it goes back to the question whether or not it is happening.
Yes. Is that, do you see that handshake going on right now?
Well, I think, you see, again, I bring you back to the targets. Once you see the targets are not going down, the handshake is not working. Look, in natural ways, once it is working, it's working. If your car is working, it has fuel, you'll come to work.
There's a sector, there's a ministry that seems to be working. Power.
Yes.
We have a lot of electricity.
I agree with you totally.
Yes, we have a lot of electricity now, but many people can't afford it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of electricity people can't afford. Recently, a lot of Nigerians were upgraded. A lot of Nigerians in the FCT were upgraded to Band A, and then they started calling us and sending us messages. We told them, welcome. Remove your slippers at the door, come inside. Let us understand what is going on with you, because a lot of us have been going through it for a very long time. A lot of electricity out there, but people can't afford it. What do you make of that dynamic? Because when you talk to people from that ministry, they tell you, you said you wanted electricity. And this is the cost now of electricity. If you cannot pay it, turn off your lights. You know, what do you make of that situation?
It's a case of POS and ATMs working very well. Everyone will.
Everyone POS works better than ATM.
Listen, whatever. So you see, we are very innovative and creative to come up with how to spend money, but very few people are actually working on how to create the money. So so that's what I give you the scenario of POS and whatever. Once you see globally, go around everywhere on earth. Every country that manages to break through on the development threshold, three things are normally subsidized to make sure that it powers your economy. Number one, food. I have worked on a farm as a manager in the United Kingdom based on my profession. There is something called set aside. They will even pay you to put your farm, don't grow anything, because the system is responding to glut or whatever. They must make sure they stabilize it. So they pay you for not farming. Two, you see, energy is what powers everything. There is no way you can have epileptic reach of energy to people in terms of power, and you expect productivity. You know, there are many in the states when people say, oh, my governor is trying very well, we have power. It's just domestic, it's just light, you know, to see where you're going. You can't, in my hometown, I remember when we were in government, I was telling my governor, he puts generators everywhere and the streets are very, very bright and nice. I said, sir, have you noticed something? He said, no. I said, from 9 o'clock, everybody has gone to sleep. And the streets are very nice and very bright. Our objective is to say that when it is cooler at night, you should see the carpenters working. You should see the welders working. Yeah. You should see the painters mixing paint, so that the following morning, they will do things that doesn't need electricity. But at night when electricity is available, they are working. That is where your job creation is. That is where your solution for poverty. But when you see people sleeping, we should start rethinking again. So in exactly the same way, countries that succeed make sure that power, you don't play with it. And finally, you know, the subsidy on fuel that has been removed. It was good. Not that it was not good. It's just a lot of people who are complaining, thinking that corruption has crept into it to the extent that there are other people who are benefiting. But now we know who has benefited.
Doctor, let me just ask this one question about communication.
Yeah.
There's the Ministry of Information and National Orientation. Yeah. What would be your assessment of that particular sector? Because people still have this opinion, this position that communicating government policies is still a major problem.
I think it is. Communication generally is the key issue for literally all government systems. No matter how you work, no matter how perfect you do your job, if you cannot communicate appropriately to people, you will be tagged as not working. I remember at NSIP, one of the biggest, when they go to see us, they listen to me or any other person say, oh, this is what we are doing in school feeding. We've reached that. And they say, no, you are not going to say, what is the name of your village? They'll say, my Karanamoda, I'll just go Karanamoda, you see the primary school. Do you know these primary schools in Karanamoda? You say, oh, yeah. Yes, the name of the headmaster is so and so. Yes, they have 2,000 children there, and we fed yesterday. These are the pictures. We have the system that is even downloading pictures every day, but we failed to communicate, and people thought we were not doing it. So communication is key. But again, you have to jump out of the box. Communication by just going to TV and sit down and tell people this is happening. People will take it as just a government hype. You know, I remember Jerry Garner used to do what you call assessment or whatever. He was always on the run, you know, running to state government, meeting with governors, going to farms, going to factories and so on and so forth. And that day, because he's Minister of Information, you will at least see it on NTA. They are tracking the minister and you can see it. And people liked him. You know what I mean? Just for doing that. And people got a lot of information of things that are happening. If you know the digital things that are happening in this country, in terms of trying to ginger young people to do one or two things, it's huge. People don't know, you know. So jumping out of the box to look for it and disseminate it appropriately must be a reform.
You know, you always say that don't hire people you can't fire. So if you were the president,
yes,
who would you tell, please take a bow and go?
Out of these ministers, I probably will have a minister's performance measuring meter. So each of my ministers will come and sit and I'll wire him up. And I'll type some few keywords and it will tell me whether he's above, below, or somewhere. If he's below, I'll fire him. Unfortunately, I don't know whether the president has that meter or not. I don't have that meter.
Okay, so there you go. If you expect him to name one minister, that's your answer right there. Dr. Umar, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
All right, I think we've got something from Festus. Can you find it?
Well, yes, Festus Akimboyewa says, Nigeria is blessed with gas in abundance. There are massive opportunities in gas all over the world. FG must take advantage of these opportunities and work with our private sector to use gas to grow our economy and make Nigeria a world-leading gas-producing nation.
All right, so there you go. That wraps it up today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Have a great week ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Bye for now.